Good morning, I'm James Gruber and welcome to the Morning Report for Thursday the 11th of June. So yesterday, Iran hit a US helicopter and America retaliated with strikes of their own. And today, President Donald Trump threatened to hit Iran, quote, very hard. That rhetoric didn't help already shaky stock markets and it sent oil prices higher once again. The negative news offset a milder than expected inflation print out of the US. And in news just in, Trump has been true to his word, as the US has started strikes against Iran once again. And as for what's in store for our market, the index futures suggest the ASX 200 will open down 0.8%. As for the ASX 200 yesterday, it snapped a three-day losing streak, rising 0.6% to 8,653, thanks to gains from banks and consumer stocks. Insurance broker Steadfast was the top gainer on the benchmark as it surged more than 35% after receiving a takeover bid of $7.7 billion from a US consortium. Today looks like it might be an ugly day for the ASX given the overnight market action. Let's now move to commodities. Global oil prices climbed after President Trump said the US is going to attack Iran if no peace deal is finalised, and as market data showed a larger than expected drawdown in US crude inventories. Brent crude futures settled up 2% at $93.1 US a barrel. Base metal prices fell as intensifying fighting in the Middle East increased concerns about global economic growth. Copper futures sank to their lowest level in 3 weeks, down 0.8%, while aluminium futures declined 2.6%. Gold futures plunged as fears of a wider US-backed war with Iran stoked concerns about interest rate hikes to curb rising inflation. The futures settled 3.6% lower at $4,133 an ounce. Meantime, iron ore futures were steady, finishing up 0.3% at $101.70 a tonne. Let's now take a look at currencies. The Aussie dollar was last trading 0.5% lower, with one Australian dollar buying 69.96 US cents. Let's get a wrap up of what's happened overseas with markets. The Dow Jones index finished down 1.9%, the S&P 500 dropped 1.6%, and the Nasdaq lost 2%. A closer look at the trading day there. US share markets extended declines as technology stocks remained under pressure and renewed tensions between the US and Iran overshadowed a tame inflation reading. Technology and AI stocks bore the brunt of the sell-off as investors priced in a tighter monetary policy and worried about stretched valuations in the sector. Nvidia, Micron and Broadcom fell between 3.7% and 5.1%, extending losses after a brief rebound on Monday. The S&P 500 Techs Index was down 2.3%. Supermicro Computer tumbled 28% after announcing plans to raise $7 billion through a series of equity and equity-linked financing transactions to fund component purchases for its growing AI service demand. Among other movers, shares of trucking companies XPO, JB Hunt and Old Dominion fell between 2.2% and 5.1% after Amazon announced expansion of its less-than-truckload freight services in the US. The Industrials Index slid 3.4%. 3 of the 11 major S&P 500 sectors moved higher, with energy shares leading gains as oil prices climbed. Meantime, US government bond yields edged up after data showed core consumer price inflation eased more than economists had expected last month. The Consumer Price Index rose 0.5% in May, putting the annual inflation rate at 4.2%, the highest level since April 2023 and above the 3.8% reading from April. Stripping out volatile food and energy prices, the core CPI rose 0.2% for the month and 2.9% from a year ago, both below estimates. The US 10-year Treasury yield rose 2 points to 4.55%, while the US 2-year Treasury yield added 2 points to 4.15%. To the European markets now, the continent-wide FTSE Euro First 300 index added 0.1% lower, and the UK FTSE 100 rose 0.3%. Europe finished a choppy session, little changed, as investors weighed a renewed flare-up in tensions between the US and Iran and looked ahead to the European Central Bank's upcoming monetary policy decision. Mining and industrial sectors led the losses, falling over 1% each. Meanwhile, the tech sector slipped 0.7%, extending its slide since Friday to 3%. Norway's Kongsberg fell 5%, after margin guidance from the Norwegian defence and technology company disappointed investors. Let's now take a look at what's on the watch list. In Australia, the Melbourne Institute survey of inflation expectations is out. In the US, the PPI for May and weekly jobless claims are released. In Europe, the central bank will hand out its interest rate decision, with rates expected to be kept steady at 2.15%. And that's it for today. For further developments on the local trading session, please tune into the CommSec Market Update podcast this afternoon and, of course, the Market Close video. Have a great day.